So in here, I think everything's looking great. I think there's just a couple last things you can do to kind of just push this um, over the finish line. The first thing is I think you could just bring this gradient you have here, this grad, and I would right now it feels like a spotlight here, but before it was just a nice kind of just grad from light to dark. I think you bring some of that back just so we can start reading the foreground a little bit more. Right now, some of the foreground elements we're losing it against the
Yeah.
ground. So I think you can bring that back a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably because when I tried to like make a little bit more shaping on the door, I decided like to get a little bit less of the drop off. So like the brightest part of the spotlight like hits the door like right on the edge
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there,
I see that.
and the fill light gets a little bit less exposure. So then the transition between the spotlight and the fill light is a lot harsher. Then yeah, I need to.
It's. I think it'd be totally fine if you increased the cone angle.
Mhm.
So like if you had it where it was before, you can do a lot of that. Like the grads, I do a ton of grads in comp.
Yeah.
So like you could totally just grab that down if it's not exactly what you're getting in lighting.
Hmm.
Of course, you want to get as much as possible, but I mean, this is feeling really nice. I think it's just this fill needs to kind of just come up a bit. This is actually really
Okay.
nice too, like all this shaping that you have. Yeah, if you're able to just get a little bit more fill back here, that I think that you're on point. Um,
Okay. A little bit less vignetting, right? Okay.
yeah, I think yeah, and really it's just adding more fill right here.
Mhm.
And then you can add a little more saturation just on the door, kind of what you had before. Just get a little bit more warmth here.
Okay.
And then I would like where the outside the window. This is really nice. I would just grab this up a little bit. So right now it's only in these two windows. It'd be nice to kind of get it like some
All
of
the way through.
that. Yeah, it doesn't have to go all the way to the top, but just a little bit of follow through. So
Hmm.
it can finish like right here, but we just want to make it feel like it's not just down below. But that's
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
nice. Like that little subtlety like makes this really lovely in the outside.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
the saturation probably, yeah, it's probably on the last one, it's probably the saturation well, it's for the same reason like the contrast went quite up. Like the fill light is just not like giving enough color now. Like it's not added up to like the last image.
yeah, I mean you can do that in comp. You can just go and just add more just ice like matte this door, and then the key just add more saturation.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
you
okay,
should
okay.
yeah you should be fine with that. Um,
Okay.
like all of these little touches like this, like on the glass are awesome. Like it just adds a little bit more shaping now. See, like
Hmm.
just a little bit, and like yeah, all your shaping in here looks really nice. I think that's it. I think everything looks great in here. I feel like after those changes, you can move on.
I I just don't know. I don't know if I feel like I think all this is right and all. It's just that I don't feel like there's just a tiny part of the picture that I'm kind of worried about that I'm not liking that much. It's the telescope right next to the window. I don't know if I'm like that on like I don't like that much like that hue or the color. I just don't know. I feel it needs something, right? I feel like like the foreground, it's nice. The desk is nice. The window at the back is nice. The wall to the right is nice. It's just that like the telescope. There's just something I don't know that I don't
I
like.
I honestly I don't have a problem with it. I think it's grouping here, and it's not the focal point of the image.
Hmm.
It's like we're not like this is the the telescope is just off to the side and is part of the environment, but it's not part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story to me is here.
Mm-hmm.
To like all the changes that I've been pushing are to get us back here. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to bring attention to the telescope unless there's a story point to it. Unless
Mm-hmm.
like this we need to draw attention to it. But based off of what you like the way you've been structuring this has been like the story point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this telescope is fine.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, maybe I'm like
I mean, you can
focusing
add
on the
if
wrong
you want.
things.
You can if you want to add more shaping to it, you can add a little more bounce to the bottom um, to shape it. The color of it, I think, is fitting within the environment. It's grouping with the outside as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think. Yeah, I think everything is looking great.
Okay. Mm. Is the fog all right? Like the volumetrics are fine.
Yeah,
That I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. I think it all feels great. I think you have your coolness. Like you have like the color mixing now doesn't feel like you've pushed the you can feel it. Like you have your warm tones, and then it goes to your cool like cyan tones. It's not green anymore. If I look at this, it's not green.
Yeah. It's kind of odd, but I like a lot how the clock at the far left ended up. Like I think it has
Yeah,
like quite a nice shift.
yeah. The shaping looks great on it.
Mm.
Like I said, I think like you if you want you can keep on like shaping every little thing in here, and that is totally fine. But I think it would be great is you can like just tweak just a little bit of this. Like I feel this is super cinematic, um,
Okay.
and I think you're ready to go on to another exercise.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. 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 Maybe I should like just leave this out. Like I should do the tweaks and like leave it at that at the moment and continue to the next shot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we're artists. We want to keep on like tweaking. But I think like
Mhm.
also think about like production. When you get into production, w- like we have a deadline to do, and we don't have one right now, unless you have one for real. But we tend to kind of like push
No.
things to like get it to this deadline, and then we have to let it go sometimes
Mhm.
so we can move on to the next thing. But I think in terms of the exercise, you've hit a ton of the points that you've wanted to hit, um, based off of the reference image, and
Mhm.
the mood and the tone and the story is there. Yeah, I think and personally, I think it looks great. But feel free, like if you wanna keep on adding little things here and there, that I mean
Oh
that is
no. No, I understand. I understand. Yeah, if I need to, I will. But I do think like I have stayed like long enough on the shot, like because you saw like I had another version before this, right? And I already had like a week on that. So maybe it's time to like change to another shot just for practicing other styles or other shots. Just.
like I had a shot that I built, and then I like I was working on it a lot, and I kept on going, and then I was like, okay, I need to like do like two other versions of this to like get it to feel like. So I did a morning version, and I was like, okay, now I need to do night, and now I need to do rainy like mood.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, let's just go. Let's see if I can get that look. Okay, I got that look. Now I'm gonna go on the next look. Now I'm gonna. I'm not saying you have to do it with this shot, but I think it's good to kind of like push yourself and then move on, and then you can come back to this too. Like if you like after the exercises, you're like, oh man, I've learned these techniques. I've learned this. I think I can apply that to this shot and push it even more and plus it totally. But from the exercise point, I think you hit it. And
Okay. Okay.
all right, I have to move on now to the other artists. But
No,
yeah,
don't worry. I'll stay to watch the rest. Like yesterday, I couldn't like stay for a personal matter, but I'll stay here just
yeah,
to see the
yeah,
rest.
no worries.
Okay. Thank you a lot, Shane.
Yeah, no, awesome work. And seriously, that looks really great. Okay, I'm gonna move on to Arash's work now, looking at previous and current, and I think you are like super. You're basically, from my point of view, you're pretty good with this. The only last things I would do is like I'd take down these specular hits just a little bit, maybe like by like a stop, because my eyes are starting to like focus on those a little bit. I would add in just a little bit more you can do it with a bounce or just grad. Make this a little bit brighter so it matches. Right now there's a lot of contrast over here, so my eyes tend to go towards here. But if you lift this a bit and just like have it go from light to dark, just a little bit more over here, that'll help group the door with the wall. Love the bounce in the shaping that you have going on here. I think this is looking great. The pushing the exposure here looks awesome. The only thing I would do is like the rim here feels cool. I would just move that to feel warm. I just have like warm tones similar to what you have in your halation. I would just group that with the exterior. But other than that, I think you're in a great place, and I feel like you can probably move on. The only other thing I would say is if you have time, and you don't have to, but I would just add some images in here in these picture frames. But again, if you don't have time to do that, totally okay, because I think you're in a great place. All right, so I'm gonna go to Miguel's. I think this is a fantastic step. I think we're starting to get there. Like the way you're pushing some of these structures is looking great, and maybe like the background might be slightly overexposed, but I don't think it's that much. I think really I would keep this exposure over here and then just maybe grad and just take this down like to this value that you have here, up to this side. But I think that like what I want to show you is let me bring this reference up. Okay, okay, so I brought up Dune because the cinematography is just awesome, and Greg Fraser is a master when it comes to simplification in terms of the read. If you look at this read, look, like he doesn't have a ton of details in the background. He's keeping it very simple. You know, we have this dark structure here. We have Timothée Chalamet here. And it's just a really simple read, and everything tends to be like pretty overexposed because like what we're looking at is through the lens of a camera. So like when I look at this, yes, like it's bright, but we're like at the time of day where the sky is super bright and the shadows are dark, so the camera is going to pick up that a bit. So but I just made a couple adjustments just to kind of push that even more. So what you can do is keep that exposure back there, but now you can push your structure even further back with some warm haze on it, and almost like it's through a halation. So halation a lot of times is going to make it like it either makes things look very glowy or it hazes things a bit with the kind of the color of the background. or where the color of the source, the light source. So this light source is really kind of orangey. So what I did is I just pushed that structure back even further. You may even have even more room to haze it out even more. So I'm just pushing that structure back for stepping. I'm hazing and pushing this structure back even more, and then what I did is I added more saturation and more exposure to the haze on this side, just to get like that sense that the light is coming from this direction. And now you can see that like when I start doing the stepping of, so it's like this is pushed back even more with haze and halation. This is pushed back. You can see I'm pushing that back further because it's supposed to be hazy. Remember, like you have this really kind of hazy, dirty area. So I'm stepping this back and stepping this back, and now your contrast of your creature is dark over light, and it reads a lot better. So this has less contrast, this has more contrast. So now we're reading your character more. The other thing I did is that shadow that you have in the foreground, I just darkened that even more. Again, looking at our depth cues and kind of pushing, making it bolder, just giving it a bolder feel to it. The other thing too is I just added more like of that dirt and dust. Added a little more brightness to it over here. It stays dark in the shadows, but then like I have a little bit of it peeking out and brightening up right over here, just to give that sense of, again, like light and dustiness over as well. The other thing too is I just added, I think you have this cool fill like top light. I just exposed that a little bit more on your character to add more shaping. So you still have your key, and then you have that cool top light, and I just added a little more shaping to it, and then you stick with your core. So like now, like if you look at it, it's a simpler read that we're getting. You close your eyes and you're just getting this character a lot more and quicker. Whereas before, the read, everything was starting to blend a bit together. But now, like by pushing things back, and then by like getting a dark over light read, now we're looking at this character a little bit better. So I think those are some steps you can do to keep on like kind of getting this read to feel like this character is popping off and menacing. Again, I think the steps that you took were great. I think it's just pushing it just a little bit more just for simplifying that read. All right, so Darwin, let's see, is Darwin here? Okay, I don't see Darwin here, and I actually would like to go over these together with Darwin, so I'm gonna wait, and I'll respond to them right after this call. Okay, Pete, awesome iteration. I think this is looking really cool, like the direction you're going in here. The couple things that I would probably want to do is, and this is just a personal preference, but things in the background and in general starting to get monochromatic. So like the background feels monochromatic, and I'm losing some of the richness that you had like in your reference and in the previous version. Some of these like rich warm tones against the green tones, like it creates this earthiness in the background where when I look at this, it starts to feel more like a filter. And looking at the reference, it had these really nice richness to it that I think you can bring back. And I think that is working really nice. I love the depth of field that you have, some of that haze that you're putting back there, but I think it's starting to feel more like a filter back there than the rich river environment that you had. I think the the color of her shirt, that change was a great choice. I love that. I do feel like her skin tones are starting to get washed out and pale. Again, if we're looking at the reference, there's a lot of rich, saturated local color that's happening on their skin tones. There's the cool reflection that happens, and that's like I would keep this like cool reflection, but the rich fills, I think you should start bringing back. And I feel like maybe like your fill light might be a little bit too bright in general, but I think what you can do is bring some of the warmth in the key hit. The fills should start getting more saturated and maybe a little bit darker. I'm just looking at like the skin tones that I'm seeing over there here, and there's just a saturation and richness that we're not getting in her skin, and it feels a little bit washed out. I think I'm just squinting my eyes. I think everything else. Oh, the other thing I was going to note is I think you can start doing some eye work now, bringing in like a specific eye ding. Just I would choose a side. If it's on this side, you can put it in the top left, and then shape. So it's like if you look at their eyes, they have this really nice shaping where they have a speck just hitting in their eyes there. And then you would darken. The way we usually shape the irises is where the speck hit is, you darken that part of the iris, because the iris is concave, so the light is actually going to hit the opposite of where the reflection is. So I think you can do some eye shaping similar to what's going on with your reference, and that's going to give her a little bit more life, and the irises and the pupils don't feel washed out either. But yeah, that's looking cool. Your black and white or desaturated version is looking great as well. I think you can, again, I think you can bring a little bit less fill and kind of a little bit more bold. Just give the fill light and make this a little bit more bold. I'm just looking at this image is really successful because we have a lot of contrast of hue and value up here against like all these other kind of graphical like hits back here, and I think you can do that with your character as well. The other thing too is like in the black and white version or the desaturated version, I think I'm squinting my eyes and I think you can brighten the background just a little bit down below. So remember when I said grab her dark to light, and we're starting to see her, but now down below she's starting to blend with the background. So I think the background now needs to get a little bit brighter, so that way we can just read her against that. So it's like and they do a great job of that. Just you see like where their dark hair is, it's brighter behind, so that way when we squint we get like that nice silhouette and separation. So yeah, those are some quick notes. Great next steps. Yeah, composition looks great too, and yeah, keep going, and I look forward to your next iteration. Okay, so I have lastly Christian's work here. So Christian, this great start, and things are looking really cool in the shot. The one things that I am noticing in the reference that work really well, and I know that you've changed a couple things, which is totally okay, and I think a lot of the changes you're making work really well. The one things that I do think is working a little bit better in this. The reference is when I squint my eye is going to the ground, um, and to this uh, light source a little bit, like even over here. I think they darkened or dappled the ground a bit so you can read, like you want to get the read on is it the warg? I think they're called wargs, but your orc character, and I'm gonna say warg, and if it's wrong please correct me. And if you look at it, we just have a lot of the biggest contrast areas are the rims and just the orc character, where the light is coming from screen right and you're hitting it really hard and getting this really graphic read of the character. I think that's something that we want to focus on your orc character. So I think to me it's like I would dapple or darken some of this light here, and then dapple some light here. They kind of have it going on here. You see, it's like it's not like this big flat plane. I think you can dapple this a bit just so we can get our eye back here. And then I think you can, I think personally the silhouette and the read starts to get a little complicated with your torchlight. So what I would suggest is I would move this torchlight over here to the left, and then you can have this warm kind of kicker off to this side, and then you'll simplify the read of your orc as well just a little bit, and you'll frame them. And then the last other thing to do is like think about, if you squint your eyes, like where are you looking, and I think we need to like get a better read. So like we need more contrast over here. So I would have a brighter sky in background, and then not as bright as if you look, this hit is going to be like the brightest that key hit that you have, and then your fill side will go a little bit darker. So if you look at this, what works so well is you have this bright hit here, and then you have dark over light. So you're reading that character pretty easily. I mean, we want, like, I think the big thing is trying to get our eye to this orc character, but I think some of the stuff in your environment is starting to take away from that. I think the other things too is like I would bring down some of these spec hits. Again, they're just a little bit distracting compared. Like everything in here is a very simple read. Like we get this like really simple rim. We have this character here. We still get a dark over light read over here. So I would think about how do you get our eye back to the orc character compared to the environment. So yeah, those are some adjustments that I think you can do. Oh, Darwin, you're here. Okay.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I thought it was tomorrow.
Oh, no worries. I did not go over your stuff yet. I was gonna wait to now that you're here. Perfect. So the first thing that I want to kind of ask you is, because I don't want to, like, you've gone through some iterations already on this. I just want to get your grasp of where you are in terms of your lighting and just what story you're trying to tell.
So, well, basically at first I started thinking that I wanted something like light and kind of funny kind of thing. Like it was something funny, light, but also that had some dramatic lights. The first thing that I saw was that I thought of was the beam of light coming through the window, and the god rays, well, touching the guy with the book reading. And then well, I kind of wanted the same idea. I didn't want it to have much of a huge ratio between the shadows and the light. So I didn't want a high contrast. I didn't want high contrast in the image, because in that way it'll look too noir for me. That's my thought. But also it came out a little dramatic as well, and I don't know how to make it, or I don't know if you think it has kind of the feeling of being kind of light still. But I wanted to have it like kind of in the middle of dramatic and funny kind of thing. Just thinking of those two characters being part of a animated film, like comic, but also like they're the bad guys, right? But of a funny film, right?
Okay, so these are kind of like the like similar like the villains with like Home Alone.
Yeah,
Like you have the two
yeah,
like kind
kind of.
of. Let's actually go through. Let's watch your clip.
What would you say if one day I came home with 6 puppies?
What's in the box? What's in the box, Patton?
I think you know.
All right, so it definitely has comedic beats to it, right?
Yeah.
And like when I'm looking at this right now, there's certain things to me that are working really, really well. I think the read on this character is working. I feel like on the ground plane, what I'm seeing is like a couple of like there's like multiple sources of light, so we're getting these double shadows, and also like your character kind of goes like it's not in light and it's not out of light. So I like for me, I would love like if this could be simplified. Again, these notes, I know how you've gone through iterations already, and if you let me know too, like if you just want to do like nuke notes, I can like talk about some of that stuff too. So I think first maybe like a big question is how much manipulation would you like to do on these shots?
Well, this is intended to be a crucial part of my demo reel. So I'd say I would like to fix the double shadows, because I know that's a kind of a mistake, or a kind of like a newbie mistake, and I don't want to be like I want to apply to jobs and to see like for people to see that I kind of know my stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't say it's a newbie mistake, not at all. I think it's like we as artists, I mean, I've had double shadows in some of my shots too. To me, like
okay.
it's over time you start thinking like what I'm thinking about isn't necessarily, hey, the double shadows are a mistake. No, like what I'm thinking about is right now it's creating complexity. So
Okay.
like it looks like my eye is going down here because there's a lot of complexity, and I'm thinking, how do we simplify it? You know, and I see one light over here, and I see maybe like another light going from in this direction. So what I would do is I would just simplify this area so that way we get a better read on your character. So that the other thing too, what you might want to think about is maybe I'm just looking at like the color scheme of your of your room, and you have this really high contrast of blue against its complementary color, orange. So for me, it almost starts to get a little bit distracting because I'm looking at the blue more than I'm looking at these characters.
Okay.
I like potentially what you might want to do is actually just group it within these tones. Maybe it's like just more in a neutral color, like like one of these warm neutral colors. And then like what that's going to help do too is I that's going to help pull this character off. And then maybe at the same time you might want to lighten this door. So again, I'm like looking at this character and his head is actually starting to blend. I'm doing this with squinting my eyes. So his head's starting to blend with the door. So you might want to actually, you know, like lighten this door so that you have a better read on this character. And then the other thing is, I'm wondering if the volumetric rays are a little bit too hard. I'm wondering if it's more of like it's more of just like a haze that's over here, just really just more like a halation. Do you know what halation is?
No.
Okay, so let me
Really.
grab some.
But yeah, you know what? I didn't thought about the wall because on the video, the animator has it around the same color, and I changed it just because I didn't want it to have that same scheme. But now that you highlighted that way, like your eyes start to see the wall first. It would be better to go back to where the animator had it before, like around the same scheme of colors of oranges or maybe a cream kind of.
Yeah, I think it's like whatever's like gonna draw. Like I think about like what's gonna contrast against this, you know, like
Yeah.
what's gonna contrast against this, and to me the cool tones are starting to they're starting to make this the shot a little bit more interesting for the wall compared to like the characters.
Okay.
And the other thing too, what you can do is when you're doing iterations on this, just work on a single frame for now. You can just like render out a single frame and continue just iterating on that. And so that way you don't like the last moment is like when you can send all your final frames to. That way initially you're not having to do a lot of work with the rendering. Halation. Let me bring that up.
Yep.
Images. So when you have a really bright, overexposed source, you're gonna get like this kind of like glowy bleed. This is like this happens to certain like lenses. You get bloom. So we call this halation. So like when light is overexposed and it starts blooming like this, like it just happens within your lenses. And like sometimes it might be like a tighter glow like this. And you'll see a lot of times like with the source light is like super bright and almost like desaturated, but then the halation is super saturated based off of like what the color of the source light is. So you can see that like with this lamp, it's like really bright yellow here, but then when we get to like the glow and the halation, it's like really super saturated oranges. Same with like this too, like these greens. Like what I'm wondering is if you want to go more towards like this kind of like you can have a look like it's like if you want like some more like just a little bit of like softer volumetrics here and then more halation around the window frame. That's like similar to like what you're getting here. See?
Yeah.
That makes it feel like it's like just this bright source in the background.
Okay. And I think it resolves the issue that I was having with putting a background behind the door, right? Because now if it's blown out, I don't have to maybe deal with putting a background or a matte painting
I mean,
before.
you can still do that. Like this is an
Yeah.
example where it's like super blown out. But I also think that these are like frosted windows. There's also, let's see, it might also be like similar to this where it's just like something that's really overexposed back there, you know.
Okay.
And it just, oh yeah, like if you want some like really good reference, No Country for Old Men is awesome for just like the simplified scenes. So it's like, so you just have like this, you see how it's still, there's still some detail back there, like right here, right? Like it'd be nice if it's just like it's really overexposed in the background, and then you just have that like that nice halation, and then you have a little bit of just kind of like the softer volumes, just slightly. And once you have like the background neutral, then we can start going over like how we can shape it a bit too. No Country for Old Men is definitely much more of a drama,
Yeah.
and the tone, but it's great reference for like just how to have a simple read in your shot. Yeah, this is more of that halation as well back there. And then I think once you get those steps in there, the only other thing too is like when it comes to shaping your character right now with this character is like his skin tones feel a little bit too cool, and feel like they start to get washed out a bit. You might want to start adding in more local color. And what I mean by local color is what is the skin tone when you hit it with neutral light? So this is a lot of painters talk about this. Let me see if I can. Okay, so we'll use this as an example. So you see how like this is like a blue toned apple. This like has complementary colors. This is local color. It's like it's a red rich apple, like red rich shadows and tones, because that's like what like what it looks like with neutral color on it. So that's similar. Like it feels like, because if you look at his skin tones, they start to go a little bit gray. We want a richness to it. We want it to feel like it's like, if you look at my skin right now, like there's this kind of pink saturation to it. That's something that we'll probably want to bring back into the fill side. So yeah, and like look, the same thing with like his fingers here. His fingers start to go a little bit gray. So we want to make sure that the character is still like, even though he's kind of like the villain or like the secondary character, we still want to like add beauty lighting to him.
Okay. I think it's something about the material, because at first I had it with I had it oversaturated, and he was like kind of going yellowish, kind of. And then I toned it down a little. But yeah, I'll have to go back and check on the skin.
Yeah, it also feels like there's a cool light. You see, like
Yeah.
I think that's mixing with it as well.
Okay.
And then I think in terms of this, the same notes apply to the background. The other thing with like, I would just like look at what's like levels of contrast that we're looking at. When I look at the background, my eye goes here first because we have this really bright like reflection against the dark. You can tone that down like and make it like a quarter of what it is. So you still feel the reflection, but it's not our focal point. And then like the other thing is like, again, this is like the double shadows again too, like on this box. So our eye starts to go down here because it's like it's a really like interesting shape that we're seeing. So if like we can simplify that on the box, then our eyes will start going back up to this character. And then
So sorry.
oh, go for it.
For the reflections on like behind the guy, do I change that on comp? Like, should it be better if I use it on comp?
Yeah,
or
like this type of stuff you can easily do in comp. Like it's
Yeah.
you don't like because if you change the light outside, you might change like how it looks in the interior. But this is like a super quick thing you can do in comp.
Okay. All right.
And then in this shot, in our next iteration, I'll talk about eyes too. But for now, I'd focus on staging for now. So in this shot, we talked about the halation, right? And now, and then to go back to our shaping, like you have like this wrap light around your character here. You have your key, you have this cool fill, and then you have another warm fill here, and then you have another key here. I would keep this like a warm wrap. So like similar. Let's see if I can go back to that Roger Deacon. So and actually, yeah, you see like with this shot, you have your key, and then the wrap light is still within the same color hue as the key. So it's still those warm tones. And then the core here becomes a little bit cooler. But it's not like super cool. It just goes a little bit, it's just like a little bit cooler than from where the wrap is. So it's like a little bit of subtlety to that. So like in here, it would be like warm key, then it's like warm wrap, and then you'll have your core here, and then you have your kick. And then the other thing you can do is just take down a little bit of this bounce light on your character. I'm just looking at ways to kind of like shape your character a little bit more so it feels a little more appealing. Right now, the gray skin tones start to make him feel a little bit like dead, but he's got character, right? Like he's got
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a couple things you can start to adjust in this shot to kind of just plus it a little bit more. All right, sorry, I know that's a lot to take in. Any questions?
Well, I think the main issue that I'm just thinking of right now are the double shadows. How do you usually tackle that? Like, how do you
So a lot of times is like you have your key that has a hard shadow on it, and then you bring in another light that also has a hard shadow on it. So with that secondary light, that fill light, you start making it larger. Make it a large fill light. So like your shadows start to soften. So like I'm seeing like I think that's coming. We have this. Yeah, there's two lights here, so you really want to think about which one's your key, and that's what's gonna like have this light, and then whatever your fill light or your secondary light is, that's the one that gets larger.
Yeah, because I have three lights affecting them. One that comes out of the window, and then the one that's in front, like the same thing as the camera,
Like the
and
wrap.
that's the blue one. Yeah, that's the fill. To me, and then I had a top light because to recreate like on every house we have top lights above us, and there is kind of like a shaping form of the eyebrows and all that on the like from being lit from the top light. So I had one that's kind of recreating a light bulb on the ceiling. So those are the three lights
And what
that are on the scene.
you could also see like on the ground, you can start use. Are you in Arnold?
Yes, I'm Arnold.
You can do a filter just for the ground as well that removes some of the like the lights that are distracting. So like you can do your key, and then whatever your fill, like if you like need those fills for the rest of that environment to shape everything, but you just don't like it on the ground, you can either light link it off, or you can use a filter to remove it too.
Oh well, that's true. Yeah. Okay. I thought it would be more complicated. I was like doing math in my mind. How can I do this?
Oh yeah, no. So it's like usually like when we stage something, we put in our key first, right? And then we start we put in our key, we think about how we're shaping our background, and then we think about, and then we see like how are the characters working within that, you know? And then you start adding in your secondary lights. So really think about like what lights do you really need, and then you can start removing stuff through either filters or light linking or even just increasing the size of the fill, because your fill might just be too small. It might just need to be increased. Like
No, and it is. You're right. I have my field's really kind of the same size that the key is. So I think to do it to make it larger, it'll help with a lot of problems of the shadows and the harsh shadows competing with each other, basically.
yeah. So like I'm gonna show you what Roger Deakins does. So if you look at this, and actually this is going to show you what's actually happening. So if you look at this scene, what he does is he has like his brightest source here, and it's still like kind of like it's still a pretty larger source here. And this is not like your shot. Your shot is like certainly has a direct key, but like he has his key here, and then he has these other like, actually this shot shows it better. Let me see if I can see. He has his like bright key here, and then he has these larger sources around that are just kind of like softer and softer and softer. It's known as a wrap. So he has this key hitting here, and then he has like these larger sources wrapping around. So, and that's what gives, and this is kind of, let me see. Why is the quality so bad?
I know.
Let me see. Open. Because it's so small. That's why. Let's see if I can find that. Better. It's kind of the same structure. So you have your key here, and then you have another larger, softer light to do a wrap, and that gives just this really nice. You see how it's like key, wrap, core, kick. It just gives a nice like shape to the characters.
Yeah.
And your environment as well. I'm not saying to recreate that for this shot unless you want to challenge yourself, but what I'm saying is your fill light should be much larger.
Okay. All right, I'll try to make that larger.
Okay, so
And yep.
yeah, go for it.
No. Just saying, I wanted to try like a little more shaping. What do you think about the shaping of the characters? Are they okay, or maybe that's something we need to address later?
I think the shaping on this character is looking great. We have this. You have your key, you have your wrap, you have your core. Like the shaping looks really nice. To me, like with this character, it's really just, I think the big thing to me is I would just make this wrap light or whatever, like, because you have a key like rim here, and then you have a secondary light here, and then you have a fill light here. I would just make your fill light similar to your like color hue wise. Just bring more local color to that. Bring a little bit more richness to this key, and a little bit brighter. Is there two lights here? Is there one right here and then one right here?
Yes.
Yeah, I would bring.
So I have one room.
Yeah,
And the key light.
I think you have room here to bring this up compared to like your key, this key.
Okay.
And then I would take, right now it's like almost violet tones. I would get a little bit more neutral. So this could be warm, and then this could be neutral light. And it still feels like it's warm against cool.
Sure. Okay.
And then this, you can keep, I think this is fine. Having this kicker back here. Okay, so yeah, just the big things are just simplify like some of your lighting. Let's add some like halation over here, and then like even like with the volume fog, I think you can just keep it in this area. I don't think it needs to like go all the way out, because there's other things that we can do to shape the scene. Like once you have your key, once we simplify the ground, then like that key hit on the ground, we can start doing stuff like bounce light up, so it's dark to bright. So it's like so we can start shaping the background.
Okay.
Sounds good. But first, let's simplify the shot, and then we can move from there. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Yes, thank you.
I am so sorry. I appreciate
your
yeah, I think like sometimes taking a couple steps back will help like push it further.
Yeah, no, and I want this to look as good as it can be. So I don't mind going back,
Okay.
just because, well, I want it just beautiful. So basically, I appreciate it.
No problem. I think you have a lot of great like core stuff in there. It's just now like, how do we simplify this to make this a really simple read? and make our characters just look really great. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Shane, and really nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too. All right, so that was the last one for tonight. Again, great work, everyone, and happy lighting. See you next time.